Hey everybody, it's Chris with Life 180, and I am back here for another weekly episode of Canadian Personal Finance, I guess we're going to call this. But I'm here with Galen Nadal from Canadian Whiteboard Finance, and I think today's video is going to be a lot of fun. We want to talk about, Galen and I were just actually talking before we started recording, and I feel like a lot of people feel like they can do their own personal financial planning. And, I know things are different in Canada than they are down here in the United States. And I think, but just psychologically, humans in general, a lot of times, especially successful people, feel like they can do just as good of a job as their financial advisor. And so why pay somebody any kind of fee for anything when you can just go to these cheaper platforms and do it? And so we're going to have that conversation today.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's something I'm very fascinated by. Partially, I'm fascinated by it because before I became a financial planner, I did not have a financial advisor. And I would read books and books and books. And I met with a guy referred, like I got a mortgage, and my mortgage agent is like, you should go talk to this financial planner. I talked to him and we just didn't hit it off. Like that was the biggest barrier. Like I'm very much a relationship guy, and we just didn't hit it off. And he was telling us all the stuff we should be doing. And I remember walking away from the meetings and just being like, I don't know if I can trust this guy. Like, I can't tell if he's giving us good advice. I should just do this by myself. And I had a little bit of Superman syndrome, I'll admit it also. So I think one of the reasons why the universe put me in the place of financial advisor is so I would actually take care of my own stuff, like as an advisor, learning it from the inside. So then the question is, can people do it themselves or not? Or I guess the biggest question is like, you viewer, can you do it yourself or not? And what does that look like? And I think there's some really important questions that people can ask to really get to the heart of whether they're going to be able to pull off do-it-yourself financial planning or not.
Cool. That's awesome. So what are those questions?
So one of the questions is, I would say is like, so I interviewed New York Times bestselling author Gretchen Rubin on my podcast a little bit ago. Okay. So if you don't know about Gretchen Rubin, she writes really phenomenal books around behavior. And she wrote this one book called The Four Tendencies. And she has a free quiz. So if you just Google Gretchen Rubin quiz, you'll find this quiz. It takes a couple minutes. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's one of the most fascinating personality quizzes I've ever taken, because what came back to me was a result that helped me know what are some of the tricks to get myself to achieve things that I couldn't achieve before. So I'll break it down very quickly. The book is all about how people respond to expectations, either external or internal. Okay. And so some people respond very well to external expectations. Some people resist them. Some people respond very well to internal expectations, and some people resist them. Yep. So if you're watching this live, if you're watching this, I recommend you pause, because I don't want to throw your results off. So you pause, you take the quiz for a couple minutes, you come back, you
don't click away, again. Open a new tab.
Yeah, don't look away. Don't close the window. Open the next tab over, take the quiz and come back, because I don't want to skew your results. So you've taken the quiz, you paused, you're back. If you came back as an obliger, obligers, I'm an obliger. The biggest tendency of the four is obliger, and obligers respond very well to external expectations, and they resist internal expectations. So an example from my life, if I want to get into shape, I pretty much have to hire a personal trainer, or I pretty much have to go run with a group, or I have to set an event in my calendar. Like I've got a triathlon in 3 months. I have to get ready for it. Like that's the only way that I'm going to be accountable. Like just telling myself to get up and go for a run every day.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen. Not going to happen at all, ever. And that just bleeds over into my entire life. Like if I want to achieve big things, like one of the reasons why this video series is going so well, like if I said to myself, hey, Galen, you're going to set aside half an hour every week to do a YouTube video, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, totally.
I wouldn't do it.
Totally.
But when I see our event roll around and I'm like, it's Monday morning, and I see when, we record these on Wednesdays, I'm like, I better get ready for that call. And I'm on time, because I'm like, Chris is waiting for me. That's external accountability. Yep. So what I'm getting at here is, even if so you might still need help from a financial planner, even if you're the other tendencies. Like I'm not saying if you're one of the 3 other tendencies, you don't need a financial planner, but I am going to say that like, if in your life you have tended to see success when you've had some level of external expectations, or you've had some level of expertise in your life, then you're probably not going to be able to do it by yourself. Like that's just like the base of Like I resisted the fact that I'm an obliger for a long time. Like when I took the first time I took the quiz, I was mad because I was like, I'm not an obliger, I'm a rebel, or I'm a this, or I'm a that. And
The
then finally, when I
idea of what you
embraced
wanted
it,
to be. Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to be a rebel. And I'm like, oh, I'm a rebel, dude. I moved to Venezuela when I was 22. Like, I'm a rebel. Like, no, I'm not a rebel at all. So, anyways, the interview I did with Gretchen was pretty fascinating, but I've embraced the fact that I'm an obliger, and now I can craft my life around that fact. Like, I can get stuff done to an incredible degree simply by putting external accountability in my life. So yeah, so that's like the first step, I would say.
That's amazing. I mean, that makes sense. So you just want to have that clarity about like what your skill set is, or I guess what your natural tendencies are, right? And okay, so like let's say you have that. I mean, I have obviously. By the way, everybody who's watching this, I come into these fully unaware of what we're going to talk about, right? So like I didn't know until, what do you think, 30 seconds before we hit record about what we were going to be talking about. So like I'm coming into this while Galen's prepared. I'm coming into this kind of raw, so to speak. And so I have a lot of opinions on this, obviously, myself. And the first thing that always comes to mind is, just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? Like, and there's a lot of tools out there, whether it's business building or financial planning or whatever. I remember when I first started building my business. I mean, you'll appreciate this, Galen. Like I was using this tool called Infusionsoft.
Oh yeah.
And so I started using Infusionsoft, and it's called Confusionsoft for a reason, right? It's like, but I was sold on this because of everything that it could do, right? And so I went down this path, and then before you knew it, I was literally pulling my hair out, going insane, trying to learn this very complicated tool. And then it finally dawned on me, just because it can do all these things doesn't mean I should, right? And like I feel like one of the challenges that people that do their own financial planning or try or think that they can do their own financial planning is it's really easy. First of all, it's hard to detach the emotion from the investment side of things. I mean, I'm a big believer people make decisions emotionally and they validate those decisions with logic. But if your emotion is strong enough for anything, you're going to find the logic to back it up as to why, in your personal financial life. One of the things that I also know is people don't typically have full clarity on what it actually takes to be successful. So having an outside person, having a coach, is something that, yes, I think it's beyond the fact of what you were talking about, of being an obliger, like needing to have that external validation. I think if you want to have successful results, even if you could do it on your own, even if you were somebody, I don't know what the term would be, a rebel, or like somebody who's driven by internal motivation.
Upholder, right? Is that one.
What is it?
Upholder.
So let's say you're an upholder and that's you. Well, guess what? I guarantee you, Kobe Bryant, for instance, was an upholder, right? Like he was somebody who was in the gym before everybody, like working on his shot, put in more hours, grounded out. But Kobe Bryant would still be awesome just being Kobe Bryant. But by having the right coaching, it makes Kobe Bryant the best of all time, or like in the category of maybe some of the best of all time. So when it comes to people's personal finances, it's the same thing. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And like the question is, do you want to just get by or be mediocre, or like get to a level that you could get on your own? Or do you want to take that and level it up, and get better results and get better guarantees and get, work with people that can actually help you on a more predictable basis? Because like, let's face it, in personal finance, there's no guarantees. It's just, how can we come up with the best predictable type of outcomes, right?
Yeah.
And so,
for sure,
that's my biggest thing is like, if you're a dentist or a doctor or an entrepreneur or something like that, what is the opportunity cost of you trying to do it on your own, of you trying to spend your mental time and energy? Like that's the biggest thing that I see, right? Is like, I'm an entrepreneur. First and foremost, yes, I got into the personal finance space, but I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. And one of the reasons that entrepreneurs I know work with me and the people that I refer them to work with on their finances is because, listen, if you're running a business that's doing $1 million a year in business, and now you're trying to run your own financial investments and stuff like that, the mental capacity it takes to do this well without putting yourself really at a lot of risk for loss of this bucket of money, that's taking away from your ability to perform over here. And what's the opportunity cost of the time that you're putting into this? It's way above like the rate of return and the fees. And so like, if you're a doctor or let me just talk about entrepreneurs for a second, because like, if you're an entrepreneur and you're building your business, and you said, like, for me, I have to hire video editors. I have to hire like people who design funnels and systems and automated campaigns and write email copy and do all these different things, right? Like, I have to figure out, like, does it make sense for me to spend my time there to build my business, or do I outsource that? Like, and hire somebody who, yes, it's going to be some money, but it's going to help me and my business grow fast. Well, it's the same thing with your personal finances. You can go do it, but it's taken away from your ability over here. And no matter how much you try to do, you're not doing it full time. So you're not going to be as good as like somebody like Galen is at doing that. You know, like it's just impossible. You're never going to get there. So why try? Like, spend your time where you have your unique ability. If your unique ability was over here, you'd probably be doing this for a living. That's what I have to tell you. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, man. Chris, you are passionate about this topic, and I appreciate the fact that you had no idea this is what we were going to talk about, and you're just like, all right, let's just unleash the beast. Yeah, definitely, man. Like, I remember when I was a kid. So my dad's a doctor, and I was a kid, and I saw my dad, and I was like, "Hey, Dad, do you do your own taxes?" I can't remember what happened. Like, somebody, I don't know, I was a kid, and somebody said something about doing their own taxes, and my dad was like, "Why on earth would I do my own taxes?" He's like, "I probably could, but it would take me 2 days out of my year to do it.
Totally.
I would only do it once a year, so I would have to relearn a bunch of stuff every time." And he's like, "I would much rather pay someone else to deal with that." And he wasn't trying to teach me a life lesson. He was just telling me like his logic. And I'm really grateful for it, because I don't do my own taxes. Sometimes people are like, "What do you mean you don't do your own taxes? You're a financial advisor." I'm like, "No, like, I don't do my own taxes. What are you, nuts?" Like, I'd have to relearn, like, I'm not great at paperwork. There's a reason why I have an administrative assistant.
Totally.
Like, I'm not good at paperwork to begin with. And second of all, I'd only do it once a year. I'd have to like relearn it all over again. So yeah, no. And I think what's happened in the financial planning space, that it has its pros and its cons, is that I think that I wasn't around as a financial planner back in like the 70s, 80s, 90s or whatever. But the sense I get when I look at history is that they were kind of like in like what's the word, like they're kind of like the man behind the curtain. Like, it was almost like they couldn't be challenged on what they were saying. That's the sense I get is like, back then there were no e-trading platforms. There wasn't as much transparency, I think, around the work they did. So people, I think they just weren't questioned that much, and people were like, "Okay, you're going to tell me what to do and I'm going to do it." Now, I think the good news is there's a lot more transparency now, which is great. What I think the thing that's happened that I don't agree with at all is that, and I don't blame people for this, like, I think that it's so hard to measure the value of advice. Like, there's no litmus test. Like, if I wrote a financial plan, and like, you can't like dip it in some water and the water turns blue to know that it's a good plan. Like, there's just no like categorical test. There are some big red flags that I can help people look for when they're trying to get a financial plan. I can tell what's good planning just because like I can open up a plan. I can talk to somebody and be like, "Yeah, this is not a good plan," or "This is what I would consider to be a good plan." So what people have defaulted to is that since there's a lack of trust, potentially, like, that's the biggest reason I've seen, and there's studies that have shown it. Like, I saw a study about doctors a bit ago, and I actually put a survey in a group of physicians in Canada. So it was a Facebook group specifically for physician financial planning in Canada. It's got like 20,000 members. And I said, categorize yourself from, "I love figuring out finances, like I've got it figured out," down to, "I need help, but I don't know who to trust." 58% of people said, "I need help, but I don't know who to trust." And that's the people that are in a group whose purpose is to help them figure it out. And they're like, "I would love to get help, but I don't know who to trust." So since people don't know who to trust, they default to what I consider to be, at least I'm going to go for the cheapest option, or at least I'm going to go for like what doesn't feel like it costs a lot, because at least then I feel like I'm not getting ripped off. Like, I think that's where I feel, whether consciously or subconsciously, I think that's where the path people have gone down is, I don't know who to trust. I don't even know where to begin. I don't want to meet with someone that is going to like weird me out or try to sell me something. I'm going to either pick somebody just because I think that they're the cheapest, or I'm going to try to do it myself because it's cheaper. That's what I feel has been like a big like train of thought for a lot of people. And I think it's just too bad because a lot of people are missing out on getting some really solid advice. And it's just like, they don't know how to measure the value. That's the sense I get.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, I mean, not to sound arrogant here or anything, but like, I feel like you're not going to find many people who understand this stuff much better than I do. And I still work with somebody, you know, like I have a person. It's kind of like if you're a doctor, you can't be your own doctor, you know, like
exactly.
It's hard to be objective about your own medical condition, right? If you're living it every single day, and because there's too much of an emotional pull on you with whatever the potential outcome would be, you know, whatever it is. And so you need to make sure that you have outside objectivity that comes into your decision-making process it's like a checks and balances sort of thing, right? And having it, you know, picking the right person all comes down to trust, right? Like, do you trust that person's, you know, intellect, ability, motive, you know, like, you know, you know, their ability to really have that impact in your life and be like, for them to understand what your objectives are. Do you trust that they fully understand what you're looking to accomplish? And, I would say if that's you though, like, what would you say? Well, I guess I'll ask this to you in a question then. Like, if this is you, Galen, and if you're talking to somebody and let's say you're not a financial advisor, but you know a bunch and like whatever, what would your advice be to somebody that says, hey, you know what, man, like I'm struggling with this. I know I need to work with somebody, but I just having a really hard time trusting people. How can I go find somebody that I can trust? Like, what is the process to go out and actually find somebody that you can trust?
That's a really good question. So I did a whole YouTube video on this. I did two of them, actually. I did one, which was the top questions you should ask an advisor when you are interviewing them. Cool. And the other one was how to find an advisor that you trust. Ooh. So, and I talked about the red.
Give me the link to those. I'll link them down in the description.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. They were very popular among my videos of like, and so I talk about the, it's like a graph. It's like, you've got competent, trustworthy. It's like you want someone, so it's competent, trustworthy. They're either competent or not, trustworthy or not, or a combination thereof. And so I'm like, you want the one that's competent and trustworthy because I'm like, there's probably advisors that like, they're probably trustworthy to give the advice, the best advice they know to give, but they're not necessarily competent in the sense that they have not become students of financial planning. And so I'm definitely like a student of financial planning. Like my bookshelf is just covered in, it's over here, it's off camera, but it's like covered in books about financial planning. So I've studied the investment side, I've studied the insurance side, I've gone to conferences, like I've got my CFP, I have to do 30 hours of continuing education credits every year. Like I consult with a group, a team. So yeah, you know, so I think I'm competent. I'll just say that, and trustworthy. But I'd say that like one of the things that I tell people to, I mean, oh man, yeah, you'll have to link the video. Cause like off the top of my head, like one of the big things is, it's like when I tell people to look, I'm like, when you meet with somebody, it's like, what's your process? Like that for me is a big one. Like, what is the process you're going to take me through? Do you have a process? Am I going to have a written plan at the end of this? Like, is it going to be down in writing what we're doing and why we're doing it? How do you get paid? And I'm not like one of these people who thinks that advisors should only get paid this way or that way. Like I'm not one of these like black and white, like you have to go find someone who gets paid this way. One of the reasons I did get my CFP, what's that?
Transparency and clarity.
Yeah. Oh, like, in the written plan I create for people, I write out exactly how I get paid and what they're going to get. And so like, if someone's investing with me, like if someone were to start as an investment client tomorrow, I would be doing an investment policy statement to map out how we're going to manage those investments for the next 60 years of their life. You know, like it's going to be there in writing. They're going to get a written plan, whether it's a retirement or an estate plan or a plan for their kids. It's going to be in writing what we're doing and why. That's a big one for me because a lot of advisors don't do that, and people forget. Like I mean, I didn't do that in the beginning, but after a while, I remember I was meeting with a client. We were little by little building the plan, and it was beautiful. Like it was like disability, critical illness, like they were protecting their income. They were investing their savings. Like it was corporate planning, like just beautiful. And if you asked me off the top of my head what they had, I could tell you because I had it like memorized. Like, you know, I just knew what they had. Yeah. And one day they're like, Galen, what do we have? Like, I feel like we got a lot of stuff. Like, what does it all look like? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm dropping the ball. So from then on, I created written plans of like, this is what you've got and why. This is why you got the insurance you got, and why, because then every year we go back to it and we're like, on the investment side, when the crash hit last year, I was like, we knew these things would come. We've got this written plan. What does the written plan say? Keep doing what we're doing. Cool. And everyone benefited from that advice of keep doing what you're doing. On the insurance side, same thing. People write big premiums and then they're like, why did I do this thing again? Like, how does it work? How do I get at it again? And I'm like, yeah, go back to the plan. This is why you did it. This is how you access it. So I'm a really big fan of putting all that stuff in writing. Second of all, do they use a team approach? I'm a big fan. Like, I mean, you only see me in these videos, but like, I've got unread messages from like 3 different people on my team right now, from a guy who helps me run retirement calculations, from another advisor who I bounce ideas off of. Like, cause I love the idea of other people bringing their thoughts to the table to help balance, my expertise, to help balance what I'm doing. Cognitive biases that I might have are going to help be offset by them doing stuff to the table. So I'd say written plan, working with the team, transparency about how they get paid. Like I said, like, I'm not like one of these people who's like, you have to work with someone who gets paid a certain way, but like, I think they need to show what the value is for what you're getting. Like, what are you going to give me? What am I going to get from what I'm paying? That's what's been lacking, I think, in the financial services industry, is like, all people talk about is the fee, but it's like, if you're going to save me taxes, that's greater than the fee, then like, aren't I ahead? Like, yep. If you're going to like, if you're going to, on the investment side, if you're going to protect me against downsides better than otherwise, like, is that not now earning the fee? If you're going to like take the time, there's a lot. Okay. Last one. I just remembered a really good one.
Nice.
And I'll just end on this one, because I'm probably not going to remember anymore off the top of my head, but in my video, I think I talk about 10. Does your advisor come across as an order taker? And by that, I mean, people will come to me and say, Galen, I want to do this thing. And my job, and I think there's a lot because my dad's a doctor. Like, I learned to ask good questions from him and not just take things at like face value. A big part of my job is to like get people to ask the questions they should be asking rather than the ones they think they should be asking. So if someone comes to the table to me, like, and this has happened, someone comes and they're like, I want to invest all my money in X, or I want to get an insurance policy with X premium. And I'll ask why. And this just happened this week. A client of mine was like, I think I need $5 million of life insurance. I was like, cool. Why do you think that? It's like, well, one of my colleagues has 5 million. And I'm like, okay, do you know why they have 5? Like, because I've had conversations with this person and I know they don't, like, from what they've told me, I don't think they need 5, based on the conversation we had at one point in time of who would be financially impacted by your death and to what extent. We came up with a number more like 2 million, like, to really cover everything they wanted to cover. Like, that was it. That was the number we came up with. And then they were coming back to me with this idea that they needed more because they saw a friend that had more. And I'm like, let's just go back to what you really need. And that's true of every question. Like, people come to me and they say, oh, I really want to invest in this thing. Like, why? What's it going to get you? Like, is it going to get you where you want to go? And I will be honest, like, truth be told, and I call this double advice. Up here in Canada, there's a popular coffee, double, 2 hits of cream, 2 hits of sugar. So I call this double advice. You drive through the drive-through, you ask for a double. The person gives it to you. They don't ask you, should you be having caffeine? Should you be having this much cream and dairy in your life? Like, are you going to lose sleep at night because you had too much caffeine? They don't care. It's like their job is just to give you the double. Like, so I'm like, look out for double advice. What I will say though is, like, some people just want what they want. And I just can't usually work with people who, if they don't have a good reason to do what they're doing, I can't get behind them doing it. Like, once I understand, like, someone might come to me and say, oh, I want X life insurance. And I dig deeper and find out they truly do. I'm good. If I dig deeper and they don't, then I'm like, you either have to change what you're going for, or we have to, you have to find someone else. So
work with somebody else.
Yeah. So like, the people I work with are the people who want to know, like, yeah, Galen's not just taking orders. Galen's diving deeper to make sure I'm getting exactly what I need.
Well, I've done a couple of videos recently that the title of the video, I think is what you're doing in your personal finances getting you closer to where you want to be,
Exactly.
And like, that's really what it comes down to is really understanding. You have to understand, like, what are your objectives? What are the results that you're trying to create? What is that desired outcome in your life that you want to ultimately create? I mean, that's why we all save for retirement. You're not saving in this bucket of money or trying to create more cash flow if you invest in real estate or anything of that nature. You're not doing it for no reason. You're doing it because at some point in time, we all know, whether it's going to be by desire or by necessity, we're going to have to retire. Nobody gets out of this game alive, right? Like, very few people are able to go through life and be completely healthy, completely functional, completely, like, engaged in life and productive and working and, you know, doing what they do for a career their whole life. And then all of a sudden, go to sleep one night and don't wake up. That's not how the world works. And everybody knows that. So the question is, what do you want when you hit that moment in time where you're like, okay, from here, whether it's by your choice or by necessity, what do you want life to look like? That's the only reason people have to do this, period.
Yes, absolutely.
So the question you need to ask yourself is, what do you want that to look like? And, you know, obviously the life insurance play comes into conversation. Like, do you have kids? Like, what's the legacy play? Do you want to give it to your church? You know, do you want, like, are there plenty of other questions, any charities that you want to be, take part in? But at the end of the day, is what you're doing getting you closer to the desired outcome there? And do you know unequivocally right now, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that what you're doing is going to get you there on a guaranteed basis? If the answer is no, especially, and I guarantee you, everybody that thinks they're doing their own financial planning and they're doing it to get there, I guarantee you, not one of you, I guarantee you, and I challenge you on this, and I have software that I can run you through, and I'm not licensed or anything. I can't give you specific advice, and I can't sell you any products. I'd have a conversation with you, and I'd push you to somebody like Galen. If you're in Canada, I'd push you to somebody in the United States. But I tell you what, I could blow your whole paradigm up in about 5 minutes about your financial planning strategy and what your expectations are versus about what you're doing and what the results you're actually going to get out of what you're doing. And it'll blow your mind.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy.
And I'll say, like, YouTube people, like the people out there, like, I will say, like, I joke that I'm a lot of fun at parties in Facebook groups around finance, because people will get in there and they'll be like, should I use this thing? Like, should I get this fund or this fund? Like, just to give an example. And I'm always like, I don't know, like, which raindrop is going to hit the bottom of the window faster, raindrop A or raindrop B? Like, it's not the question you should be asking. And people, they don't like it when I come in with that. And so I'll say, like, what I'm going to say is, if you're a viewer and you don't know if it's getting you closer, like, don't feel bad. Like, most people don't. Like, when I'm in those groups and people ask these questions that I call very, like, surface level questions, and I ask even one level deeper of why they care about getting a higher rate of return or why they care about this, like, the vast majority of people cannot answer that question. And I don't blame them, because if all they've read are the books and if all they've done is watch the videos, then there's no one, like, getting them to ask the question they should be asking. So, like, if you're in that spot, don't feel bad. Like, you're in the vast majority of people that have not taken the time to, or don't have the guidance to go into those deeper questions. And it's everyone out there. Like, I mean, I've never had anyone come back and tell me, oh, this is why I want an extra % rate of return in a Facebook group. It's never happened, ever.
I love it. That's cool, man. Well, that's awesome, man. I mean, I'm psyched that we got to talk about this topic. I did not see it coming. So definitely outside of my expectations, and I had a lot of fun with it. So is there anything else you want to cover?
Oh, that's it. Like, that's good. We've hit it. I'm glad I remembered 4 of my things to check out.
So
off the top of my head.
Galen's going to send me the links. I'll put those in the description below for those other videos. If you want to watch those, I would encourage you to do so. If you found value in this video, make sure you hit the like button, please. It definitely helps the channel out. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure you click the bell, that way you get notified every time we do a new video. I create a lot of content on my own. Galen and I do this show. We try to do it on a weekly basis. We get most weeks in. And yeah, that's it. So I hope it helped. I hope it served you guys and you found value in it. And until next time, go out there, have a blessed, inspirational day, and we'll talk to you soon. See ya.